Clara Morgan stood at the edge of her family's ranch, the Big Sky, gazing out over the sprawling Montana landscape. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the rolling hills and vast pastures. The beauty of it all was overwhelming, but so was the weight of the responsibility that came with it. The Big Sky had been in her family for generations, and now, at 35, she was its sole guardian. Clara was a striking woman, her beauty tempered by the rugged life she led. With her long chestnut hair usually tied back in a practical braid and her sharp blue eyes always alert, she was the epitome of strength and resilience. Growing up on the ranch had taught her to be tough and resourceful, skills that had been put to the test when her parents passed away suddenly 5 years ago. Running the ranch alone wasn't easy, but Clara had never been one to back down from a challenge. The Big Sky covered thousands of acres, and managing the cattle, horses, and the land itself required every ounce of her energy and determination. She rose before dawn each day, working tirelessly to ensure the ranch's survival. The ranch hands respected her, not just for her beauty but for her unwavering dedication and fairness. She treated them like family, and they reciprocated with loyalty and hard work. Even so, there were times when the burden seemed almost too much to bear. One particularly challenging summer, a severe drought threatened to decimate her crops and livestock. Clara spent sleepless nights devising ways to conserve water and keep her animals hydrated. She coordinated with neighboring ranchers, sharing resources and ideas, all while maintaining her composure and steadfast determination. One hot July afternoon, Clara was repairing a fence when she noticed a stranger riding up the dusty road toward the ranch house. As he drew closer, she saw that he was tall, with a weathered face and a confident bearing. He dismounted and approached her, tipping his hat respectfully. "Good afternoon, ma'am. My name's Jack Lawson. I'm a drifter, looking for work. Heard you might be needing some help." Clara studied him for a moment. She could use the extra hands, especially with the drought taking its toll, but she was cautious. "What kind of work can you do, Mr. Lawson?" "Just about anything you need. I've worked on ranches all my life. Good with cattle, horses, and fixing things up." She nodded slowly. "All right, Mr. Lawson. We could use some help around here. You can stay in the bunkhouse with the other hands. We start at dawn." Jack smiled, a glimmer of admiration in his eyes. "Thank you, ma'am. I won't let you down." As the weeks passed, Jack proved himself to be a valuable asset to the ranch. He worked tirelessly alongside Clara and the other hands, never shirking from the grueling tasks. Clara found herself appreciating his company more and more, though she remained guarded. She had learned the hard way to be cautious with her trust. One evening, a sudden storm rolled in, dark clouds blotting out the setting sun. The wind howled through the trees, and rain began to pour down in sheets. Clara and Jack were out in the fields, trying to herd the cattle into the barn to protect them from the storm. "Get them moving!" Clara shouted over the wind, her voice carrying a note of urgency. Jack nodded and spurred his horse forward, guiding the cattle with expert precision. Together, they managed to get the animals safely inside just as the storm reached its peak. Drenched and exhausted, they took refuge in the barn. Lightning lit up the sky, and the thunder was deafening. As they waited out the storm, Clara turned to Jack, her expression softening. "Thank you, Jack. I couldn't have done it without you." He smiled, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. "We're in this together, Clara. I'll stand by you, no matter what." Over time, Clara and Jack grew closer. They spent long hours working side by side, sharing stories and dreams. Clara found herself opening up to him in a way she hadn't with anyone else since her parents died. Jack, in turn, admired Clara's strength and beauty, both inside and out. One evening, after a particularly hard day of work, they sat on the porch, watching the stars. Clara leaned back, her eyes reflecting the twinkling lights above. "You know, Jack, sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing. This ranch means everything to me, but it's so hard to keep going." Jack took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "You're doing an incredible job, Clara. Your parents would be proud of you. And you don't have to do it alone. I'm here for you. She looked at him, her heart swelling with emotion. Jack, there's something I need to tell you. The reason I fight so hard for this ranch, it's not just about family legacy. It's about proving to myself that I can do it. That I'm strong enough. Jack squeezed her hand gently. You are strong enough, Clara. Stronger than anyone I've ever known. And together, we can face anything. Just when things seemed to be settling down, disaster struck. A fire broke out in the barn, quickly spreading through the dry wood and hay. Clara woke to the smell of smoke and the sound of crackling flames. She sprang out of bed and ran outside, her heart pounding. The barn was engulfed in flames, and the heat was intense. Clara could hear the panicked cries of the animals trapped inside. Without hesitation, she ran towards the inferno, but Jack grabbed her arm, pulling her back. No, Clara. It's too dangerous. I can't just stand here, she shouted, tears streaming down her face. I have to save them. Jack held her firmly, his eyes locked onto hers. We'll do it together. But we have to be smart about it. Together, they worked with the other ranch hands to douse the flames and rescue as many animals as they could. It was a long, grueling battle, but by dawn, the fire was finally under control. The barn was a charred ruin, but most of the animals were safe. Exhausted and covered in soot, Clara collapsed to the ground, her body trembling with relief and exhaustion. Jack knelt beside her, wrapping his arms around her. You did it, Clara. You saved them. She leaned into him, her heart heavy with gratitude and sorrow. We did it, Jack. Together. In the aftermath of the fire, Clara and Jack worked tirelessly to rebuild the barn and restore the ranch. The other hands rallied around them, their loyalty unwavering. The community of Deer Creek also pitched in, offering supplies and support. Through it all, Clara and Jack's bond grew stronger. They became partners not just in work, but in life. Jack's steady presence and unwavering support gave Clara the strength to keep going, even when the challenges seemed insurmountable. One evening, as they stood together on the rebuilt porch, Clara looked out over the ranch with a sense of pride and hope. We've come a long way, haven't we? Jack nodded, his arm around her shoulders. Yes, we have. And we'll keep moving forward. Together. Clara smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. The Big Sky was more than just a ranch, it was a testament to her strength and resilience, and now, it was a place of love and partnership. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the land, Clara knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be. With Jack by her side, she was ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that together, they could overcome anything. However, as the days passed, Clara began to notice small, unsettling changes in Jack's behavior. He became more possessive, his smiles less genuine. A dark edge crept into his eyes, and Clara felt an unexplainable chill whenever he was near. One night, Clara was awoken by the sound of whispers. She got up and followed the voices to the barn, where she found Jack talking to himself in a frantic, almost manic manner. She couldn't make out the words, but the tone was enough to send a shiver down her spine. Jack, she called softly. Is everything all right? He turned to her, his face a mask of barely concealed rage. Everything's fine, Clara. Go back to bed. But Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The next day, she confronted him. Jack, what's going on? You've been acting strange. Jack's face twisted into a cruel smile. You really want to know, Clara? I've been waiting for this moment. You see, the fire wasn't an accident. I started it. I needed to test your strength, to see if you were worthy of this ranch. Clara's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? I've been watching you, Clara. Ever since I arrived. I wanted to see if you could handle the pressure, if you could survive. And you did. But now, it's time for the final test. Before Clara could react, Jack lunged at her, pinning her to the ground. You're not strong enough, Clara. You never were. This ranch doesn't belong to you. Clara fought with all her might, but Jack was too strong. He pressed his hands around her neck, and darkness began to close in. As her vision blurred, she saw a shadowy figure approaching from behind Jack. The last thing she heard was a whisper in her ear, a voice filled with sorrow and regret. I'm sorry, Clara. The next morning, the ranch hands found Clara's lifeless body in the barn. Jack was nowhere to be found. The authorities were called, and an investigation was launched, but Jack had vanished without a trace. The community of Deer Creek mourned the loss of Clara, a woman who had embodied strength and resilience. The Big Sky Ranch was left in the hands of her trusted foreman, who vowed to keep Clara's legacy alive. But the ranch was never the same. The shadow of Jack Lawson's betrayal hung over it like a dark cloud. And somewhere out there, a man who had once promised to stand by Clara, no matter what, roamed the land, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. Clara's story became a reminder that sometimes the greatest threats come not from the outside, but from those we trust the most. And as the sun set over the Big Sky Ranch, the golden glow seemed tinged with an eternal sadness, a testament to a beautiful, strong-willed woman whose life was cut tragically short.